Hey, Zaka family! Zaka is launching an exclusive membership platform to provide you with career development workshops, coaching, community, and so much more. Go to ZakaConnect.com and sign up to receive information on how to access early registration and perks. Hello, everybody. This is Paul Herman, the Prince of Motivation and host of Zaka Presents My Journey. We're creating this vulnerable and positive platform where you can get inspired and motivated from different leaders from our community. Today, our guest is Celeste Leon, who is a public speaking coach. Celeste, welcome to the show.
Hey there, Paul. Excited to be here with you all today.
Okay, well, we're excited to hear about your stories and about your journey. So, thank you again for just taking this time to just be here with our audience members and just be present. But before we actually get into the public speaking and where you are currently right now, could you just give us a little bit of an understanding of your cultural background and where you're from, where you grew up?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was born in Peru. And when I was 13 years old, I moved to the United States to New Jersey. But before that, my parents, they really were about that travel life. So even within Peru, we had family all over the place. And when I was 5 years old, we also moved to Canada. We lived there for 3 years. Then we moved back to Peru. My parents split up. And then I moved to different cities within Peru. And then at 13, finally, I moved to the US, to New Jersey, where I lived for the past 10 years. And now I just relocated to Nashville, Tennessee. So a little something about me is that ever since I've been a young girl, I've moved a lot to different places or countries. So that really was the foundation that set my mindset and story to who I've become and what I'm passionate about and everything that I do.
Now, how was it as a young child, like all that moving? It's always like you're always trying to find your community. You're at a school, and all of a sudden you gotta move to the new place.
That's right. That's right. Changing schools all the time, not having that one place of like, oh, this is back home. This is where all my childhood friends are. I definitely have friends and people from all over the place. Or it was challenging in different ways, right? Because stability wasn't there for a long time. I always felt like I was jumping to a new place, and that affected a little bit my personality because right, think about how you become comfortable and how you become, usually people become really outspoken when they're really comfortable at where they're at. They really know everybody, and that's where they feel like they can finally be themselves. So, I think all those years kind of made me realize every time I moved, I would become a little bit more shy, right? Because I was either moving to a new city where I knew no one, or they could have been a whole other language that I had to learn, which in Canada, we moved to a speaking French area. So I had to learn French. And then when I moved to the US, I had to learn English, right? And then I remember when, I don't know if any of you who have listening to this, moved as children or learn a new language as children. As a child, it's really easy to learn a new language, but it's really easy to lose another language, right? You just want to focus on one. So I remember when I moved back to Peru, I didn't want to speak Spanish anymore. I just spoke French. And then I had to go back to my Spanish. And so all of that was definitely challenging, getting myself continuously used to new environments. But I think that makes me who I am today, being so comfortable stepping into new environments and embracing who I am, no matter where I am.
And you said both mom and dad are from Peru, right?
Yeah.
So what does the Peruvian culture mean to you?
So I was born there as well. The Peruvian culture is my roots. It makes me this bright person that I am, this loving, caring human that my family taught me to be. I love to dance because of that. We have some of the best food that we love to cook. And just also what's really cool about Peru is that even within Peru, there's all kinds of people. Your skin color looks different depending where you are. There's different cultures within Peru. So just like the richness of diversity, even within that country, is something that I love and embrace. and even Latinos, right? We can all look different. So that's just something that I love about our Peruvian culture.
You said two good things too for me: dance and food.
Yeah.
That's it. You got two checks right there. Two checks right there. That's good. That's good. Dancing food. That's good that the culture, really appreciates that. Good food and good music really makes a difference in regards to like
Absolutely.
community and building that type of stuff. So a lot of those individuals that guests that have been on the show have mentioned that was a part of their culture. That was a part of their traditions, and it created their legacy, within their family. Now, going back to when you said you came to the U.S., you was in New Jersey, right? New Jersey out of
Yes.
all places. So Jersey, right? You're in New
Yep.
Jersey. Like, what were some of like the obstacles like you face during this time? You're at the age 13, like you're just figuring out who you are as an individual, and now you're in New Jersey.
Absolutely. So I think you know, the first thing many of us do is that we want to adapt to our environment, right? I'm here, I'm just trying to learn as much as I can about this new culture. I moved to the US with my mom, so I'm learning alongside her. I don't have necessarily a parent who could guide me through. I'm like, Mama, we're learning together here, right? Um, and for a long time, I wanted to just adapt to my environment, become like others.
Mm,
And that was my first initial like process. I want to learn the language. I want to learn the culture. I want to be like everyone else. As I started in that journey, obviously I learned English. I put my all to learning English, making that a priority. Within a year, I was able to be conversational. And I worked really hard in school. I wanted to meet as many people as I could. But then I realized that no matter how hard I tried to be like everybody else, I just would never be like everybody else. How could I compete with someone who had lived in that city their whole lives in the US while I hadn't? My
mm, mm,
perspectives were different. So my culture was different. My ways of just reacting to things were different. So then that's where I began my journey of self discovery and realizing, hey, I'm never going to be like everyone else. And initially, maybe I thought that was bad, but really reframing and learning who I am um, as a beautiful journey, and something that I like to now tell myself and that I teach others is that, for instance, there's many people I encountered, right, that had never met a Peruvian woman before, right? And maybe I'm the first they've ever met.
mm,
So that can be intimidating perhaps, but at the same time, the way I like to look at it, I look at it as an opportunity, because most people have stereotypes in their head of what people are like or what they behave like. And for me, let's say someone has a negative connotation of a Peruvian. Well, it doesn't even matter if it's positive or negative. For me, they're meeting me. I am a walking representation of this culture, of what Peruvians represent. And now I'm going to use that to my advantage to show them the amazing people that we are. And
mm,
in
mm,
order for me to do that, I need to embrace who I am and show them the differences that I have. What makes me different is actually what makes me stand out, what I can teach to others. Because if I just try to fit in and be like them, then how am I ever going to stand out like that?
mm, mm. I like what you're saying right there. That's a very wise, smart way of thinking about it. That's the first interaction. You have an opportunity to change their mindset if they did have a positive or a negative, intake on that whole thing. So
Absolutely.
that's and
Absolutely.
that's how we got to walk into jobs like that. That's how we have to walk into
Absolutely.
relationships and conversations. And like you said, embrace yourself, embrace your culture. Some of our previous guests they were very shy at first in a lot of the corporate environments when they were like, I feel intimidated or scared to even let my culture shine out, right? They thought that they would be shunned on or looked at differently. But then as time progressed, they realized that their culture was a beautiful thing to actually add to that organization, and it became one of their strong suits as they got further on in their career. So for the fact that you are saying that kind of just validates all the other previous guests that have come on the show and said somewhat of the same thing. So thank you for sharing that with our guests.
Of course. Of course.
our listeners. So your journey, right, from Peru to United States. So we talked about, Jersey, but like your journey from Peru to United States, you obviously had to adapt to like various different cultures. Like you said, you were in Canada at one point in time. You had to learn French. Then you had to, when you went back to Peru, you didn't even want to speak Spanish. You just want to speak French, right? How was this experience? Like, how did it shape your communication and influence you to be a public speaking coach?
Yes, that's a great question. So obviously, when you don't speak the language very well, that is an obstacle number one. How can you truly communicate with others when perhaps you don't even know the word that you should be using?
Mm.
So to me, that was my number one goal. If you're an immigrant, you're coming to a new place and language is different from what you used to speak, your first goal should be, let me learn this language as much as I can. Then number two, then you need to practice it as much as I can. Because for those who have learned a new language, you know that oftentimes you can understand really well. You can listen to music and understand. You could watch movies in that new language. But what people fear most is speaking, perhaps because of their accent, because they're shy. And that definitely was part of my story. If you talk to my teachers or professors from high school and even early college, they remember me as a little bit more shy and reserved.
Mm.
But it really was during my college years where I made a decision in my brain that I wanted to be a great speaker, even if I had an accent. I didn't want that to stop me because my accent doesn't define my intelligence or what I can provide to others, right? It doesn't define my hard work. It doesn't define the impact that I can have on someone else. So I set a goal in my early on in college that I wanted to put myself in opportunities where I could get in front of people and speak about anything. So one of my first like college jobs was doing presentations on study abroad programs to students, right? So my college, that's one of the things that I did. I studied abroad in England. So I would go to classrooms and promote the study abroad program. That I was so shy, but I was talking to first year students who it didn't really matter if I messed up. That was my training zone. That's the way I looked at it. This is the opportunity for me to get better with my speaking in front of people. Then the next step, okay. So after that, I really began working on my self-expression. So what does that mean, right? We all have thoughts in our heads and we know how we feel oftentimes. Let's say you're in a relationship with someone, you know how they affect you, but have you ever experienced that it's actually hard to communicate exactly what you feel to others and say it in a way that's actually that where they actually understand what you're going through? Because most people want the other person to guess how you feel, right? So to me, I embarked this journey of mastering the art of making sure that my thoughts and my inner world was communicated effectively to the outer world, which is what I think most people struggle with. They don't know how to communicate properly. And that is a practice. That doesn't happen overnight. That is something that you continuously have to get out. Journaling helps with that. So I began journaling a lot. I began doing spoken word poetry.
Okay.
That's something I also began doing. I've done it for companies. I did it for events. I began doing it on social media, expressing myself. Then I began writing and growing my personal brand online because I realized as I finished my college career, how many people were learning from me and my different perspectives from my other like American peers. So I realized that, I had a little gift there and it's my responsibility to get it out, right? We are all born with gifts and our gifts are not for us. They're for others. That's why God gives it to us, right? So
you better preach and you better preach. Come on. Loving this.
That's right. So it's really important that we work on ourselves in order to share that with the world. So after that, I also got the opportunity to be part of a book called young for young Latinas where we share our stories, and I did kind of like a mini TEDx talk for the book. From there, in everything that I did, I began getting on stages. I started also a community for young women where we were doing coaching and self-development. I've also taken various public speaking courses myself. And then I started my career at KPMG with one of the biggest financial services firm in the world. And now I've been one of their youngest employees to constantly get on panels and just different type of speaking engagements because of the work that I was doing outside the firm. So for years, I've been having opportunities to speak, where I was doing this at 21, 22, 23, just as a young woman. And I think something that's really important for me to share with this audience is that who you see today is not who I was 10 years ago. Something that makes me really proud about my story is that I have built who I am. The confidence that you see today, the way I speak that you see today, I wasn't like this even 5 years ago. Everything is built, and anything that we want to accomplish in life is the same way. We have to build it. Some people are really blessed and they're born with these natural talents. Perhaps they're born into a lot of money, so everything comes really easy to them. But for most of us, it's not like that. We have to work on it. So for those who want to improve on their English, their public speaking, their communication, to me, it's a commitment that you have to make to yourself. And just like confidence, you are not going to become confident in overnight or even in a month. Because what happens, most of the time, we have so many limiting beliefs in our heads that we're repeating to ourselves for years, right? I can't do this. I'm not a good speaker. People are not going to accept me for who I am.
Sure.
Right? So many different things that perhaps we learn from others or that we're telling ourselves. And for you to have the courage or the strength to speak your voice in front of others, really embrace who you are, you need to tackle that, because you're self-sabotaging your own opportunities when you're speaking like that to yourself, right? So that's also part of the process. Seeing your own worth in your differences, believing that your voice matters so that you can speak to others and use your voice even with that accent if you have one, right? So it's a journey. It's a step-by-step process. And to me, my commitment since I moved to the US really was there. Obviously at 13, I was really young, but when I started college, I set multiple goals in my mind that I wanted to achieve throughout the next few years. I didn't know how, I didn't know what it would take, but then I would ask myself, what do I need to do to get there? What do I need to do to get there? And what I really love about Zaka and this app that we're creating here that I'm going to partner with is that that's what you guys are aiming to do, right? To give the tools so that people can get there. But remember that everybody could give you all the tools in the world. But if you're not committed and if you don't put the time to learn and get better, you need that. That's 50-50. That's part of the package.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, throughout this whole time, like, just hearing that section of your life, was it like a pivotal moment for you that kind of like gave you like the green light to say like, this is it? Because like you said, everyone's born with various different gifts, right? So what was that like pivotal moment within your career or even your life that kind of got you more focused on public speaking?
Thinking back to when I first moved to the US and just has pushed everything that I do is that when I moved here with my mom and I no longer had my dad by my side, it was like something made me realize like, hey, like you have to save yourself. No one's going to here to save you. No one's here to create this future for you, but you, because my mom was starting off as well. Right. So I was like, I'm here with my mom. I need to get my shit together, in order to create something of whatever I want in this world. Another thing coming from Peru is that I know what poverty looks like. I know what it is. I know what it is like to be in a place where there's not abundant opportunities. So to me, when I moved here, I've always been very driven Because to me, I would say, God, out of all the little girls in Peru, you chose me to come to this country. That means that you've given me a really big purpose and I have things to do and I need to help people with the gifts that you've given me, right? And what I've been able to get. And then lastly, for so long, right, within those first years that I moved here, I didn't really use my voice with purpose, with conviction, because I didn't believe in myself. I didn't realize the power that I held. So something that I'm really passionate about with helping others with their public speaking, with their communication, or with their confidence is that our voice does matter. And I know when I used to think mine didn't, and now I realize that I have such immense power and I want to help others believe in that too, and then give them the tools to get better.
Now, when you talk about tools, I'm glad you kind of got into that right there. What tools did you have to like kind of like work with to get to where you are? Like, could you talk a little bit more about like your educational background and like what did you study and like why? Like, how did you get
Yeah.
to get you here?
So in college, I studied accounting. So I was in all things business, finance world. So not really related. And I had the CPA background. I did accounting. But on the other side, like I said, when I was part of that book that I became a contributing author, that was my first official coaching with public speaking because we did like a TED talk for it. From there, I got into spoken word and then I did more courses and I just began speaking again and again. I also have my own podcast, by the way, where I speak like this all the time.
You weren't afraid doing all this? Like you spoken word, going in front of people like that there had to be a moment of like, wait, hold up. I'm in front of thousands of people or I'm in front of two people, right? And it's like you just kept on going.
I did because again, I believe that how can I tell others to believe in themselves if I can't do it?
Let's get it.
I can never tell someone else. To me, I can't tell someone to do something I haven't done. I really believe that. And another thing is I am a professional MC and speaker. So I have MC'd beauty pageants, I've MC'd weddings, I've MC'd community events, I've MC'd corporate events. Like I speak all the time.
Let's go.
I do it all the time. I get on stages all the time. I'm in front of people all the time. And that is so valuable because I have years of experience at this point. So if I can do it, anybody can do it.
And that's a very speaking is a hard thing to do at times, right? And I'm speaking from experience as well too. From doing it myself, you know, I kind of take for granted at times, you know, that it's very hard for someone to just go in front of a room of people and speak, even if they're speaking about themselves. Right?
Yes.
That's why, like you said, you found your way to various different panels and speaking at a very young age for the company. And it's probably also because you make it look so comfortable, right? And when people are comfortable, that connection, you know, people are listening a little bit more versus that person who's on that stage, like all closed off. And you're like, all right, why are we listening to this in this office? I mean, this conference with 300 people here and this person standing there talking, right? So you like you said, I truly believe from hearing your story and hearing this journey, and there's a lot more that you're gonna be telling me about. But you definitely were born with that gift, and you just over time you just had to lean into it a lot more and then cultivate it, you know, through education and then also through experience. It seems that you definitely put experience at the top of a lot of the things. Like you went from like you said, the MC and a beauty pageant to a wedding to like you said, you're speaking every time. So you're only gonna get better if you want to. So kudos to you for just constantly, you know, diving in and putting yourself in more vulnerable situations to figure it out. Because some people just they stop after a while. They're like, all right, that was nerve wracking. We're gonna stop right now. But you just like kept going. And go ahead.
Yeah, just one more thing I want to add there. Thank you, Paul. Is that another thing about why I think I've received these opportunities is that I don't know about you all, but in some cultures, we are encouraged on this humble mentality. And you work so hard, you do all of these great things, but just keep it to yourself. Right?
Yep.
Most people also, I think, don't like to speak on stages or do this type of work because they think that they don't want to brag, right? And I get that, but at the same time, I don't like it. I think that kind of mindset stops us because in your achievements, you have a lot to share. So most people, I think that's a fear. And public speaking is one of the greatest fears out there. So I also, even for people who are really comfortable with the language, I just want to acknowledge that. But I just want to encourage you all who listen to being humble is great, but don't let that take away from your accomplishments, from speaking about the things that you've done, that you've worked hard on, because you can be proud of that. Speak about it. Because think about all the things that you heard other people talk about that they've achieved. And because of that, you were inspired.
True.
Right?
True.
If you
True.
never heard someone else share those achievements, maybe you would have never been like, oh, you know what? I can do it too. So you be that person for others too. You have a whole community of people. Share about what you've done. Don't be afraid to share it in front of strangers. You never know who you can impact, and you never know who you can inspire.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And whew, you were dropping some gems. I'm just gonna let you know that you're dropping some gems. You're making me even think for a second. Like, hold on. Something I was gonna ask. You mentioned you said London at one point. You live?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Yes. So you definitely your passport is stamped up. Let's just get that straight right there. Your passport is stamped up.
Yes. For
Peru.
sure.
I mean, Jersey ain't a part of the passport, but let's just say Jersey as well too. Shout out to Jersey, right? You know what I'm saying you've been to a lot of places, like living in different countries. Like you've been exposed to different ways of communication,
Correct.
right? Different styles of communication. I would rather matter of fact. How did you like leverage that experience to kind of navigate you to where you are right now?
Yeah, that impacted me so much because I realized that every city or every country has different things that about them. For instance, think about just how you say hello, right? Introductions can look different in New Jersey or in London or in Italy or in Canada. So I realized the importance of clarity, the importance of asking questions, the importance of effective communication across borders. That continuously drove that message in my brain. Why is it so effective to be as clear as possible when you're speaking? Is because different cultures, it could mean different things. Also, another tip that I like to do when I'm speaking is things like, hey, did that make sense? Or what does this mean to you? For instance, even little words that people use or describe others as, I always like to ask confirmation. Because for instance, even now I live in Nashville, Tennessee. I just moved from Jersey. I'm still technically in the same country, right? But we all know, for those who live in the US, that people from the South speak different than people from the North, and they use different words. So even when I'm speaking to people and I think I know what it means, I speak English now, right? I like confirmation. So something that living in different cities and countries taught me is the importance of confirming what you think you believe, making sure that you are really aligned with whoever you're speaking to. So we are on the same page.
Mm.
That's really important to me.
And Tennessee, you said right now.
Yep. Tennessee.
Why Tennessee?
I moved here because I was looking for something new. I have been living in Jersey ever since I moved to the US. And I definitely, with all my experiences moving across the world in different cities, I wanted to keep that going. And me and my boyfriend also decided to move here together.
Okay, because I'm about to say that. Hold up. Jersey, Tennessee, I'm trying to understand right there. I understand Jersey, I understand Peru, I understand Canada. Tennessee, since you told me, I was like, let me understand what's going on.
Yes.
Understand what's going on. One of my next questions to you is, could you just kind of share with our audience maybe a moment, a challenge or a fear that you had when you were doing the public speaking, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest fears regarding my public speaking journey is really around the mindset that comes with that. And especially, I would say, a few minutes before you're about to speak, or maybe you're even doing an interview, right? Which is two people, but that's still public speaking, by the way. Is making sure that my mind is right. Because what people don't realize in public speaking and in communication is that if your body language is not aligned with the words that you're saying, it can communicate distrust in those who are listening to you. So something I work on a lot is making sure that my body language expresses the message that I'm trying to share, right? Because let me give you an example. If I'm in an interview, right, I'm really excited to be here today, and this means a lot to me because XYZ, right? I'm showing confidence. I'm showing I'm assertive. But if I'm really nervous, if so much is happening, I'm like, I'm really excited to be here today, and well, I would like to share with you that this, and like, there's a disconnection. There's a disconnection right there between what I'm trying to say and my body language, making sure that my mind is right. So, for instance, something I try to practice before I'm about to enter any scenario that I'm a little bit nervous about, because I just want to clarify being nervous is okay. That means that you care. Okay, that's okay. We all get nervous. I still get nervous. But making sure that why I'm doing this is extremely clear. Like, I'm doing this because it's gonna, like, let's say I'm going into a public speaking event, or I'm emceeing, or I'm doing spoken word in front of 300 people. Why am I even doing this in the first place? Why am I putting myself through this? Right? Repeating that, making my intention so clear, right? You're going into a job interview and you're super nervous. Stop focusing on you and focus on your family. Focusing on why are you even in that interview in the first place, and let that be the drive so that your nerves aren't like overpowering you. Because obviously preparation is key, my friend. If you haven't prepared and you walk into something, you're obviously going to be nervous, right? But making sure that to wrap up, that my why is really strong, that my purpose is strong in whatever I am doing, and then practicing the right affirmations so that my self-sabotaging brain, which we all have them, doesn't win.
Self-sabotage. Big word right there, listeners. Big word right there. Now, when it comes down to miscommunication, let's talk about that now, right? So we know that the public speaking, obviously, like you said, your body language and what you're saying, you have to be an effective communicator. But let's talk about miscommunication. How does someone overcome that? Because whether it be in a relationship or whether it's in the office or just in the day-to-day life, like you said, like that, what you said just a while ago in regards to the body language and the way how they're coming across could really affect the turnaround of that conversation. So how does someone kind of work on, overcoming these miscommunications?
Yes. Okay. Let me give you an example. Let's say let me give you an example of a relationship, right? You have a girlfriend, okay, Paul, and you found out your girlfriend kind of lied to you about something and that made you upset, or there was some type of disagreement. But it's not that big of a deal either that you're going to break up with her, okay? But definitely caused a little fight, right? So a lot of communication will happen. What will be like, let's say her name is Mary. Oh my God, Mary, I can't believe you did that. Like, that's so wrong. How could you do that? Blah, 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 blah. I'm attacking, I'm yelling, I'm raising my voice, I'm making her feel unloved, I'm making her feel unheard. What's the problem there, right? Most of us don't even have to properly have a calm conversation when you should say, hey, Mary, you did this and this bothered me because of XYZ. What I want, what you truly wanted there, Paul, when you like lashed out at her was what?
Are you asking me?
Yeah. What would you want, right? If
a hug. She I was doing work and I was stressed out at the desk, and all she had to do was just come over, give me a hug and say, it's gonna be okay, Paul.
Right. Correct. Okay, great one. Or perhaps also if she did something wrong to you, like, right, if you were stressed and she came and asked you for a million things when you had to do something,
True that.
perhaps what you wanted her to understand is just to apologize, right? This is not a big deal where you were going to break up with her over it, but your goal was for her to apologize and for you two to make an agreement that this wouldn't happen again, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what did you do initially? You lashed out and you yelled. But your deep intention was just for her, you wanted her to apologize and for you both to come to an agreement that if this happened again, this is just the way you want her to handle it. So I think miscommunication oftentimes happens because we let our emotions take over without guiding our words, right? You lashed out, you spoke out of how you were feeling, when in reality, we need to understand, like, okay, this situation just happened. What is the outcome that I desire? The outcome that I desire is that she never does that again, that hopefully she apologizes. And in the future, if a certain situation happens like this again, that this is how we're going to handle it.
True.
Right? So does yelling and attacking would get you to that outcome?
No.
Right? So most people, what happens when most people feel like they're being attacked?
They shut off.
Right? So a lot of times miscommunication will happen there. Because then Mary's going to say, Paul, you don't care about me. You're not even listening to what I have to say. You're just so angry, this, and that. So that happens in all types of communication. When people are using the wrong types of words, they're attacking others. They're not letting them speak and have a real conversation. And most importantly, before you go into that conversation, it's very clear that you're self-aware about what you want. Because most people would go into that and fight without knowing that what they truly want is an apology. And for that person just to acknowledge how they feel and to never do that again, right? But it takes a lot of self-awareness, right? Again, what I said, it's about understanding your inner world and then communicating effectively.
You must be using a lot of this in your office and in your relationship.
Yes.
That's like your special, you got like a special power going on over here. You have a way with words that's gonna make someone be like, you know what, you're right. I'm sorry. Even if you messed up, you're like, no, it's okay. You're right. Acknowledging someone, talking to someone. A lot of times people want to hear things the way they want to hear it. When they're speaking to someone, like when you get in that type of heated conversation, like, well, you didn't say sorry, and the person said, I did. I said, my bad. It's not going to happen again, right? And then someone's like, well, that's not how I wanted you to say it. You should have said it like this, and it would have made me feel this way. But since you said it like this, it just elevated and elevated. So a lot of that miscommunication. But in there, something I'm really catching from you, it's you have an ability to slow it down. Like you said, like, I lashed out, right? I had an ability inside. I could have still said exactly what I wanted to say, but if I slow it down, the intention is a little bit different. Taking a moment to kind of reflect and be like, okay, before I lash out, let me not do that. Let me slow it down. And maybe that person would understand me a little bit more. Once you start yelling and going and screaming and saying this, that, and the third to somebody, they start forgetting some of the key words. And it just becomes like, I don't like you versus I don't like the fact that you did this. And it's like,
right.
Turns into a whole thing like, oh my gosh, you don't like me anymore. You're like, wait, I did not say that. What are you talking about? So kudos to you for figuring this all out.
Yes. So there's a lot there of like self-awareness, of taking accountability for our own emotions, and of knowing what we want before we go into the conversation. Right? So and in my workshops that I'll be doing on Zaka, and if anybody wants to work with me, I can go deeper into a framework that can help everyone do that more effectively.
Okay. Looking forward to those workshops. Now, someone looking to get into public speaking, right? Let's talk about that right now. Someone looking to get into public speaking, like, what could you share as a piece of advice, right, for someone that might be like struggling with expressing their ideas, the confidence in expressing their ideas?
Is your question if someone wants to become a public speaking coach, or just if someone wants to become a better public speaker?
Public speaker.
if someone wants to become a better public speaker.
Mhm.
So I would say start within your inner circle, right? Start within your inner circle and use social media. Now we have this tool that we can record videos of ourselves. Most people are so scared to record even a video of themselves and share it. So if someone wants to get better at public speaking, get really good at answering simple questions, such as tell me more about yourself. Try to answer a question and record yourself speaking it with confidence and not with let me think about that. Watch yourself speaking and see how you handle those moments. Obviously that happens even when we're having conversations. It's normal to take pauses and take a second to think, right? But a confident public speaker knows what they're talking about.
Mhm.
They're confident when they're speaking. They're not doubting their own voice, right? So you want to practice that and get in that wave, but also know what you're speaking about. If you don't know what you're speaking about, you can't do that.
Mhm.
So that's what I would say. If you want to get better at public speaking, practice with what you already know and you're good at. Perhaps you have a hobby, your work. Speak about that with confidence, and then take videos of yourself, watch them, or practice with the people around you and let them give you feedback.
Mhm. Mhm. Now, when you're talking about confidence, how did you build your confidence in doing this? I know obviously through experience. That was one way which I've kind of catch that from you. Like you just put yourself into the fire. You were like, I'm just gonna do it. And whatever comes from it, comes from it. But like how'd you build your confidence?
Yeah, I think one way is 1000% practice, right? Practice builds confidence. Putting yourself through the arena builds confidence. The first time you played soccer is not the same confidence you had after, a year of playing soccer. Another thing really important is feedback. Have a group of people that you trust that can give you feedback to know how you're doing it. If you're doing it well, if there's things you still need to work on, that really helps. And another aspect of confidence to me is about how you feel with yourself. No matter what it is, public speaking could be anything. If my inner confidence and the relationship with myself is not strong, I'm gonna struggle externally. And that to me is about keeping promises to myself. That's one of the biggest ways we build self-trust and self-confidence. Because if I tell myself, hey, Celeste, we're going to do this, and then I just lay on the couch and watch Netflix instead, how can I be confident like that? Right? It's about pushing through to the things that I'm committing myself to and accomplishing it, because then I can pat my own back.
True.
Right? And it's about being comfortable in my skin, in my body as well. To me, like that I'm proud of like how I present myself to the world. All of those things make up my confidence.
Now, when dealing with confidence, I know we mentioned a little bit earlier in regards to the language barrier sometimes when it comes to like sometimes people in their accents, right? Some of the previous guests had spoken up about that when they were at their jobs in office or whatever profession that they were in at the time. Having an accent, they felt intimidated or scared to kind of like speak up. So how do you like what is some advice you would give to like an immigrant that come into the country that has a fear of like public speaking because of their accent?
It's really, really important that you surround yourself with people that empower you and make you feel comfortable. Because the truth is, even though I'm here empowering you to speak, even with an accent, you will still encounter people that are racist, people that are judgmental, people that are
Yeah.
going to have some preconceived notion of you because you have an accent. But you know what? When you go to Europe and most people speak 3 languages or more, and everyone has an accent, over there, no one cares because they
Yeah.
actually know that you have an accent because you speak multiple language, and that's amazing. So to me, I remind myself when I had an accent that I speak multiple languages, and that's amazing. People who are judging me for my accent usually only speak one language, because really intelligent people and people who are doing big things in the world would never judge you for having an accent. And the truth is, having an accent, which is part of you, is just like wearing, let's say, neon pants, right?
Yep.
Are people going to judge you for wearing neon pants? Oh, yes, there is. There's going to be a whole group of people who are going to judge you for it. But you know what? If you like it and you're proud of it and that's your vibe, or people, I was speaking to a woman the other day and she said how purple lipstick is her thing. And we were around other women and there was another woman that said, wow, I would never wear that. How could you even wear that? Right? And to me, having an accent is just maybe something like that. Is it
Yeah.
going to make you a little bit different? Is it going to make you stand out? Is it maybe going to make other people wonder where you're from? Sure, but that's okay. Don't let that be something like really bad. Embrace that, because then that means people want to get to know you better.
Yeah.
Right? So to me, it's about finding ways of why I should speak up continuously. Is the shyness going to be a little bit there? Yes. That's not automatically going to go away. But remember that your accent is what makes you you. It's your purple lipstick, it's your neon pants. And if you saw somebody else wearing neon pants, would you tell them to stay in their house? No. You would encourage them to be themselves. So same thing
Well,
with
Shy,
your accent.
you must have been in my seen some Instagram posts with my neon pants. So I'm gonna keep rocking my neon pants.
Hell yeah.
Now besides the whole public speaking coach, MCing, you have your own podcast, which you talked about a little bit earlier, right? And I believe it's Light to Success. Is that correct?
Correct. The Life to Success.
Could you talk a little bit more about that and like how you came about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So my biggest passion with starting the podcast was to continue to have these confidence conversations, help people with their mindset, overcoming limiting beliefs, and keep that motivation going. I am someone that's very motivated and I am a go-getter. If I know that there's something I need to work on, I'm going to go ahead and do it because I know that the light to success is me. I'm the person who's going to create that future I desire. I'm that person who can overcome the obstacles that I see. So that's what my podcast is about. I talk about those topics: confidence, mindset, motivation, public speaking as well. I bring on people to share their success stories from all types of people, so that we can all see proof that it can be done.
Mm-hmm. I like that. And this is it's done every day, every week, once a month.
It's weekly, but I'm gonna switch to every 2 weeks now, and it's available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and now YouTube as well.
Okay, let's making sure that the listeners know exactly where to find you.
Yes.
What was like one of the biggest challenges you faced in your career, and like how'd you overcome it?
So one of the biggest challenges I faced in my career is, I would say, one, switching careers, because I faced a lot of opposition and no support when I wanted to do that. My company, well, which was good on one side because my team really wanted to keep me, but they guilt tripped me into staying longer when I shouldn't have. So that took a lot of courage on my end to stay grounded in what I wanted, to overcome that and make that transition. And then the other thing I would say has been in one of my ventures, my business partner and I had a falling out because of differences of values, and I made the choice of breaking that relationship because it wasn't aligned to how I wanted to live my life and treat others. So I would say that was difficult.
Well, and now you're onto some things right now. So kudos to you. You're doing a phenomenal job with your career and your podcast. And the fact that one of the biggest things that I've learned from you today is the power of giving. Like you're always giving back. You're like, you know what? It's a gift for me, but it's for somebody else, right? And just helping other people. Like you're very big on helping. And I greatly appreciate it. I know that that's a very important aspect to have in any company or any type of partnership. So I know that in the many more years to come, I know you're going to be a lot more successful. And I'm looking forward to hearing a lot about these stories. But one of the biggest stories I want to hear about is your connection to Zaka right now. I'm very excited to have you part of the team. And I hear that you're going to be doing some workshops with us and really trying to really get some of our listeners and our audience members really in tune with the public speaking and stuff. So give me some insight, drop some gems for our audience right now, and just let them know a little bit more about that connection and the relationship that you have with Zaka in future collaborations.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited to be one of the coaches that's going to be on the app. And I will be creating some videos and workshops in there for all of you to see who are part of the community, where I will go through really two parts through the videos, which is one, that mindset, confidence part of the public speaking side. And then on the other side, I'll be also giving more technical tips regarding body language and speaking and how to make sure you're aligned on those things to speak more effectively. And obviously, if anybody wants to work with me or learn more beyond that, I'm happy to be here or answer any questions that they may have.
Well, thank you. Thank you for joining our team. And I'm looking forward to seeing that and hearing more about that. I know our audience members are definitely going to enjoy it. Definitely. Because you know your stuff and you're really good at it. So thank you for being a part of the team.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you so much, Paul.
One of my last questions to you is just like in any aspiration, some of your goals, like you seem very goal driven and you've been doing that ever since you were young. So like any type of goals you have for your career, what's to expect of you in the upcoming months or years?
Yeah, so the big next thing that I want to do is to become a worldwide MC. I really want to support and do more, like travel to other states or even to other countries where I MC really purposeful type of events where I host panel discussions. And for instance, next month I am emceeing a gala for a non-for-profit for veterans. And then I'm gonna MC an AI summit for business entrepreneurs. So type of events that are really impactful, that can help others, where I can use my voice and my skills to help, and while coaching people on their public speaking, their confidence, and any other skills that I may pick up along the way.
Well, thank you, Celeste, so much for your information and your time and sharing with us about your journey. Your parents would definitely be very proud of you for all the work you've done. I mean, from your journey of traveling to various different places, it seems that no matter where you go, you're always picking up something. And not only are you picking it up, you're picking it up and you're utilizing it in the next place. So whether it be community when you were growing up and about that with living at home and with the family, to learning to kind of having that sense of discipline when it came to moving to a new place and being like, look, I'm already here. I'm going to learn the language. I'm not going to wait 3 years to figure it out. I got to figure it out now. The discipline you have, and it just keeps on carrying you. You're like Mario and Luigi, right? In these video games, picking up these coins, and at the end you get to cash in. And it seems that you've been cashing in a whole lot with your career. So thank you for just being a part of the show today, and really just sharing your gift with the world and with our Zaka audience.
Absolutely. Such a pleasure to be here with you all today. Thank you for those who have listened to this whole podcast. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my story. And lastly, I just want to share to those listening to use your difference to make a difference. Oftentimes, we think our difference is what we need to hide. And I'm here to tell you that your difference is what makes you stand out and is what you teach to others. Connect with me, follow me on social media. I'm happy to connect with all of you.
Well, I'm going to make sure I keep using my lime green pants now.
Yes,
you gave the confirmation to wear it, so I'm going to start wearing it. Right?
Amazing.
Well, thank you. And I want to let the listeners know, if you want to hear more inspirational stories like Celeste, please check us out on ZakaConnect.com. Follow us on social at Zaka Connect and follow our feed, Zaka, wherever you listen to your podcasts.